The sun had barely set on a quiet suburban neighborhood in Springdale when the unimaginable happened. A mother of two and her two children vanished without a trace. Days later, their bodies were found, brutally murdered. And the shocking truth revealed an even more terrifying reality. Their killer? Someone they trusted with their lives. This is the haunting true crime case of Sarah Whitaker and her children, Olivia and Ethan, who were killed by none other than Sarah's best friend. But why? What could possibly drive a mother's closest confidant to commit such an unthinkable crime? And how did the investigation uncover the horrifying twists that led to the final chilling revelation? Let's dive into the twisted depths of a friendship gone wrong and uncover a dark secret hidden beneath years of trust. Before we delve into the details of this chilling case, we need to understand the victims, the people who lost their lives in the most senseless of ways, and the events that led to their tragic deaths. Sarah Whitaker was a 32-year-old mother of two who lived in a modest yet peaceful neighborhood in Springdale. To the outside world, she appeared to be living a normal, contented life. She had a steady job, a warm home, and most importantly, a family she adored. Her children, Olivia, 7, and Ethan, 5, were the center of her world. The two little ones, full of laughter and joy, were known for their energy and their innocent charm. But things were not always as perfect as they seemed. Beneath the surface, the cracks were starting to show. Little did Sarah know, her deepest secrets, the things she had confided in her closest friend, were slowly becoming weapons to be used against her. Lily Turner, Sarah's best friend for over a decade. To everyone, she was a doting friend, a second mother to Olivia and Ethan, and someone the family had trusted implicitly. The bond they shared was something special, an unspoken understanding, a connection built over years of shared memories and experiences. But as the investigation would later reveal, Lily had always envied what Sarah had: the family, the life, the stability. As seemingly close as they were, dark, twisted emotions brewed beneath the surface. The suspicion of jealousy and resentment would not be revealed until much later, when detectives began to dig deeper into the disturbing details of their relationship. But for now, all anyone knew was that they were inseparable, the kind of friends that others envied. Little did Sarah know that her most trusted confidant would soon betray her in the most horrific way imaginable. As the days turned into weeks, things began to change. Sarah had noticed subtle differences in Lily's behavior. What was once a harmless, friendly rivalry now seemed to take a darker turn. And yet Sarah brushed it off, too preoccupied with her family and day-to-day life to give it much thought. But things started to go wrong. The first red flag appeared when Lily insisted on taking Olivia and Ethan for a weekend sleepover at her house. Sarah hesitated. After all, it was unusual for her to let the kids stay away for long stretches. But in the end, she relented, trusting her best friend once again. What happened during that weekend remains unclear, but by the time Sarah came to pick her children up, there was a subtle shift in the atmosphere. It felt off. The next few days were filled with confusion and unease. Olivia and Ethan were distant, their laughter muted. But it wasn't until Sarah overheard a conversation between the kids that the truth began to unfold. An innocent conversation that would reveal the unspeakable. One evening, the unthinkable happened. Sarah and her children disappeared. Her husband, Matt Whitaker, who had been at work, returned home to find the house eerily quiet. The door was locked, but there was no sign of his family. His heart dropped as panic began to set in. He immediately called the police. The search began, but there were no leads. It wasn't until Lily made a seemingly innocuous call to Matt that things took an unexpected turn. The best friend claimed to have seen the family leaving the house earlier that day, offering a vague, almost rehearsed alibi. But something didn't sit right with investigators. There was something unnatural in the way she spoke. a sense of unease behind the polite words. The questions began to swirl in the detectives' minds. Could it be possible? Could the one person who had been trusted above all else be hiding something more sinister? Days turned into weeks, and the investigation led detectives through a tangled web of lies. Lily seemed to be everywhere, offering help, suggesting leads, and even attending search parties with the family. But there were discrepancies in her statements, subtle shifts in her story that didn't add up. While the investigation seemed to stall, there were moments of breakthrough. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station revealed Lily in the area the night of the murders, although she denied being there. Her explanation was far from convincing, and soon suspicions began to rise. But what truly sent chills down investigators' spines was the discovery of a hidden cache of items belonging to Sarah and her children locked away in Lily's garage. Items that should never have left the family's home, carefully packed away in boxes, showing signs of having been handled. The breakthrough came when investigators uncovered the truth, hidden in plain sight. A text message exchange between Lily and an unknown person revealed a chilling admission. Lily confessed to planning the murders of Sarah and her children, her motivations rooted in a twisted sense of entitlement and revenge. She had carefully orchestrated the murder, planning the deaths of her best friend and her children for months. She believed that Sarah had wronged her, taking away everything she had ever wanted: a perfect family, a loving husband, a stable life. But it wasn't just jealousy. No, it ran deeper than that. On the fateful night of the murders, Lily invited Sarah and her children over for dinner, a final act of kindness, masking the darkness that lay beneath. As the night wore on, the children played in the yard, unaware of the danger that loomed. Sarah trusted her best friend, not knowing that the same woman who had been there for her was plotting her downfall. The exact details of what happened in that home remain horrific, but what is known is that Lily turned on her best friend, her rage boiling over into a violent frenzy. She brutally murdered Sarah first, before turning on the children. The horror of the scene was unimaginable, yet it was only when the investigation revealed the cold, calculated nature of the crime that the depth of Lily's betrayal truly hit. As investigators pieced together the chilling details, a wave of grief swept over the entire community. How could someone who was so trusted, so loved, commit such an unspeakable act? The questions haunted everyone involved. The emotional toll on the family was unbearable. Sarah's relatives struggled to come to terms with the loss, devastated not just by the deaths, but by the betrayal from someone they had considered family. But there were still questions left unanswered. What motivated Lily to commit such a brutal crime? Was there more to the story than just jealousy? The investigation was far from over, and the shocking details continued to unfold. In the final moments of the investigation, just as the authorities thought they had uncovered the full truth, a shocking twist emerged. A hidden diary belonging to Lily was found. The contents of the diary were more disturbing than anyone could have imagined, revealing a darker, more twisted mind than anyone had ever suspected. The real question remained: was this crime just about jealousy, or was there something even more sinister behind the brutal murders? The revelation that Lily Turner, Sarah Whitaker's best friend, had orchestrated the brutal murder of Sarah and her children shook the community to its core. But as investigators began to unravel the chilling details, they discovered that the truth behind the murders was even darker than anyone could have imagined. Lily's motives, once thought to be fueled solely by jealousy, ran much deeper, into a past filled with darkness, trauma, and twisted obsessions. The chilling truth started to unfold when investigators got their hands on Lily Turner's hidden diary. The pages, once thought to be nothing more than musings of a disillusioned woman, would prove to be the key to unlocking the horrifying chain of events that led to the murders. In the diary, Lily detailed a life that had been far from ordinary. She spoke of a childhood marred by neglect and abandonment. Raised by a single mother who struggled with addiction, Lily had grown up with little guidance, seeking validation from anyone who would give it to her. She wrote about a deep-seated hunger for belonging, for love, for something more than the life she had been dealt. But things took a darker turn as Lily grew older. She recounted her obsessive admiration for Sarah. At first it was innocent, admiring Sarah's perfect family, her stable marriage to Matt Whitaker, and the life she had built. But as the years went by, that admiration turned into envy, then into resentment. Lily's diary entries grew more intense, revealing a deep obsession with Sarah's life. She described how Sarah had everything Lily wanted but could never have. A loving husband, 2 beautiful children, a picture-perfect family. She even mentioned how Sarah would unknowingly flaunt her happiness in front of her, posting family photos online, celebrating milestones, and creating a facade of perfection. The more Lily read these entries, the more it became clear. The foundation of their friendship, the one that had seemed so genuine on the surface, was built on an emotional imbalance. While Sarah had always been open with Lily about her struggles and vulnerabilities, Lily had never shared hers. The disparity between their lives, the disparity that Lily couldn't escape, festered in her mind. The diary entries hinted at something far more sinister: Lily's increasing desire to step into Sarah's life, completely. In one particularly haunting entry she wrote, "I deserve that life. I deserve the family, the love. If I can't have it, she won't either." Those words would later send chills down the spines of everyone involved in the investigation. This was no longer about jealousy. This was about possession, about taking Sarah's life as her own. It wasn't until detectives uncovered new evidence that the full scope of Lily's plan was revealed. On the night of the murders, everything had been carefully orchestrated. Lily's obsession had led her to meticulously plot every step of the crime. The dinner she had invited Sarah and the children over for was nothing more than a carefully constructed ruse. Lily had spent days preparing the meal, making sure everything was perfect, the right setting, the right atmosphere. Her goal was simple: to lure Sarah into a false sense of security, to make her believe everything was normal, even safe. And when Sarah and the kids were comfortable, when they let their guard down, that's when Lily would strike. According to the forensic evidence, the murders were swift and brutal. Sarah was the first to die. Lily used a knife, something she had kept hidden in the kitchen for just this moment. The plan was simple: a quick strike, followed by eliminating the children, who could have been a threat if they survived. Olivia and Ethan had no chance to escape. They were killed just moments after their mother. It was a calculated, cold-blooded act, one that left investigators reeling. How could someone who had been so close to Sarah, someone who had shared years of intimate details with her, commit such a heinous crime? After the murders, Lily did everything in her power to cover her tracks. She carefully staged the crime scene, making it look like Sarah and her children had simply vanished. She disposed of the weapon and moved the bodies to a nearby location, far enough to confuse the investigators, but close enough to make them believe the family had been kidnapped. Lily had always been clever, but the lies she weaved to cover her tracks were increasingly desperate. She even attended search parties and made false statements to the police, feigning concern. Her actions seemed almost too rehearsed, and yet she was able to convince everyone, except the detectives, who began to notice subtle inconsistencies in her statements. As the investigation dragged on, something unexpected happened. One of Lily's old acquaintances, a woman named Claire, came forward with a shocking confession. Claire had once been close to Lily, and she had witnessed something years ago that she had kept hidden out of fear. She recalled a conversation she had overheard between Lily and another woman, someone who had been with Lily shortly before Sarah's murder. The woman had urged Lily to end the friendship with Sarah, to take what's yours. The conversation had been brief, but it was enough to make Claire suspect that something much darker was at play. Claire's testimony added another layer to the mystery, suggesting that Lily's obsession with Sarah may have been fueled by someone else. Someone who had been feeding her anger, encouraging her to take the extreme step of murdering her best friend and her children. But there was more. Another piece of evidence emerged that made the case even more complex. A mysterious man whose identity was still unknown had been seen around the time of the murders. The man was never mentioned in Lily's statements, and yet surveillance footage showed him leaving her house the night of the killings. Who was he? Was he an accomplice? Or did he play an even darker role in the crime? As the investigation unfolded, new and terrifying questions emerged. Was Lily really the mastermind behind this twisted crime? Or was she merely a pawn in a much larger, more terrifying game? Just when it seemed like the case was nearing its conclusion, another bombshell dropped. Lily Turner was arrested and charged with the murders, but there were whispers of another twist. Authorities received an anonymous tip suggesting that the man seen leaving Lily's house might have been involved in a much larger conspiracy, one that extended beyond just Sarah Whitaker and her children. But who was this man? And what did he know about Lily's past? The investigation was about to take a dark turn as more questions arose, and the chilling truth, buried beneath layers of deception, was far from being revealed. When detectives uncovered the identity of the man seen leaving Lily's house the night of the murders, they were shocked to find out who he was. His name was Eric Lawson, a man with a criminal history, one that went back much further than Lily's own involvement in the crime. Eric had been a former acquaintance of Lily's, someone who had preyed upon her vulnerabilities and fueled her twisted obsession with Sarah's family. Eric was arrested and questioned by the police. At first, he denied any involvement in the murders, but under the pressure of the investigation, the truth began to unravel. "I never meant for it to go this far," Eric confessed during a late-night interrogation. "Lily was desperate to take Sarah's life, to become her. She kept talking about how Sarah had everything she wanted. I thought if we helped her, we could walk away with something, but I didn't know she'd actually kill them. I thought she'd scare Sarah into giving up her family." Detective Lopez, who had been handling the case from the beginning, leaned forward, her voice stern and sharp. "You helped her get close to Sarah. You gave her the tools she needed to carry out her plan. And now you're telling me you didn't know she would kill them? What were you really after, Eric?" Eric's eyes fell to the floor. "I was after control, power. I didn't want to be left behind, and Lily, she promised me things would change. We could have it all, a new life. But I never expected the kids to be hurt." It was at that moment that Eric's full involvement came to light. He was an active participant in the planning and execution of the murders. While Lily had been the one to carry out the killings, Eric had been complicit in the manipulation and the cover-up. His role in the crime was undeniable. He had been the one to drive Lily to the location where Sarah and her children's bodies were hidden, and he had disposed of evidence that would later be uncovered by investigators. Eric Lawson was arrested and charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder alongside Lily Turner, who was already in custody. The shocking revelation that 2 people, who were once close to the victims, had been responsible for the killings left the entire community reeling. The trial of Lily Turner and Eric Lawson was one of the most highly publicized criminal cases in Springdale's history. As the trial unfolded, the chilling details of the crime were laid bare for the public to see. The defense tried to argue that Lily's actions had been a result of years of emotional manipulation by Eric, but the jury didn't buy it. The prosecution painted a clear picture of a premeditated act of murder, with Lily as the mastermind and Eric as her willing accomplice. After a grueling trial that lasted several months, the jury found both Lily Turner and Eric Lawson guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder. Lily was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Eric, due to his direct involvement in the murder and cover-up, received the same sentence. In his final statement before sentencing, Lily spoke with cold conviction, her eyes focused on the judge. "I did what I had to do. I was tired of being overlooked, of being the second choice in my own life. If I had to kill them to have everything, then so be it. I don't regret what happened. Maybe the world will understand me now." The courtroom was silent. No one spoke. There were no words to describe the horror of Lily's cold indifference. Eric, on the other hand, showed no such confidence. "I never thought it would go this far," he said, his voice trembling. "I was just trying to survive. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. But now I know the damage I've caused, and I'll have to live with that forever." The media coverage was relentless. News outlets across the country broadcasted the trial, and the disturbing details of the crime captivated the public's attention. For many, the case was a grim reminder that even the most seemingly close relationships could harbor darkness. The impact of Sarah, Olivia, and Ethan's murders on the Springdale community was profound. The neighborhood, once considered a safe and tight-knit place, became a place of fear and suspicion. Families who had once trusted their neighbors now questioned who could be trusted. The loss of Sarah and her children left an emotional wound that would never fully heal. A memorial was held in Sarah's honor, where members of the community gathered to remember the woman who had been taken from them so violently. Matt Whitaker, Sarah's husband, gave a tearful speech, expressing his devastation over the loss of his family. "We were a family. We had our struggles, but we had each other," Matt said, choking back tears. "Now I'm alone, and all I can think about is the fact that Sarah and my kids never had a chance to fight back." The tragedy brought about a shift in the way people in Springdale interacted with each other. Trust, once so freely given, became a rare commodity. Neighbors no longer felt safe in their own homes. The shockwaves from the murders lingered for years, and the case would continue to haunt the town for generations to come. Public reaction to the case was mixed. Some expressed sympathy for the victims, while others were repulsed by Lily's complete lack of remorse. The media was relentless in covering every aspect of the trial, and the general public was captivated by the disturbing details that came to light. One media outlet interviewed a local psychiatrist who described Lily's behavior as indicative of a narcissistic personality disorder. It's clear that Lily Turner had no empathy for her victims. She viewed them as obstacles to her happiness, and when they stood in her way, she resorted to violence. It's an extreme case of entitlement, driven by envy and obsession. The public's fascination with the case only grew as more information was revealed. But in the end, the question remained: what would drive a woman to kill the people she once loved? The answer, though complex, was as simple as it was chilling. Lily Turner was willing to destroy everything in order to have the life she thought she deserved. As the case came to a close, a somber truth hung in the air. Even the closest bonds can be shattered in an instant. Lily Turner and Eric Lawson had once been trusted members of Sarah's life, but their obsession, envy, and greed led them to betray that trust in the most horrific way imaginable. This case serves as a chilling reminder that even in the safest communities, darkness can lurk in places we least expect. It teaches us the importance of being vigilant and of questioning the motives of those closest to us. While the Whitaker family will never return, their legacy lives on. The lessons learned from their tragic deaths remind us that trust, once broken, cannot always be repaired. The truth behind this chilling betrayal has been laid bare, but the questions linger. How well do we really know those closest to us? If this story left you shocked, moved, or even haunted, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another gripping tale. Share this video with your friends. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and like if you believe trust is something we should never take for granted. Stay vigilant, Stay aware and keep questioning, because sometimes the darkest secrets are closer than we think.